So, Alex, I wanted to I wanted to start from the very beginning.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask, why athletics and what was the original goal within the sport?
That got me into it.
Yeah.
I think so. I started when I was quite young, maybe like 8 or 9, just at the local club. And to be fair, the only reason I started is because my sister went down to the local club, and we had to go pick her up and whatnot. And because I was going, I just thought I may as well give it a go. So I just ended up going there like twice a week. So I just picked up like that, and as kind of like, I guess with most things, what people stick at is you get fairly all right at it at a young level. Like, just enjoy doing competitions. You win a few things here and there, and then it just kind of like, I guess, kind of like trajectory started going up slightly. Nothing like serious, like big level competition or anything, but just kind of like winning and enjoying. So just kind of from there, and then I was like, well, I'm quite good at it. I may as well keep going with it. And then I guess you do get to a point where you invest that much time and effort into it. Is years later that then becomes the main reason you keep doing it, because you've invested so much. So initially, just happened to be there and quite enjoyed sort of being out of the house and like doing a bit of a social really.
At what age did you begin athletics in?
So I probably went down to the club when I was about 8 or 9 years old, doing sort of like more games type stuff, and probably started running probably about like 13, 14, I'd say.
Okay. And from then, is that when you knew that was what I wanted to do in terms of sport?
I think I just kind of like fell into it if it like kind of took priority. Like alongside, like when I was at 13, 14, I would still like play football on the weekends, up until probably I was about 16. But then as like the sort of like I came around like 15, 16, running started to take precedence, because I started to do like more national level competitions and thought actually could really like try and sort of like compete at a good level here. And then just kind of like from that point on, then started to shift my focus and being like, yeah, I'll give it a good crack. Definitely going in towards like later years at college and then going into university.
Okay, interesting. So, as athletics, although it's popular, this is kind of my opinion, I feel like it's quite niche in the sense that there are a lot of different categories and maybe not the justified spotlight being shed on it. So, how was getting into athletics, and who were your sort of track inspirations growing up? I know you mentioned your sister, but was there any sort of top track competitors that sort of inspired you?
I think, yeah, I'd agree. Like, it's popular in terms of like running itself, just running, but athletics as like a competitive niche is like still, I think, super like not underrated, but like, there's not massive involvement, and I think it's like underfunded slightly. So it's hopefully growing in popularity each year and whatnot. But I think growing up, me doing it at first, I just kind of enjoyed doing it because I enjoyed the sport. And then as I sort of got further and further into it, I'd watch like some of the Olympic Games stuff. And there's a few athletes just across like the board really. So I do 800 meters. So I particularly took like quite a shine to like at the time double Olympic champion and world record holder was like David Rudisha, and still is the world record holder. But just the way he ran and like the way stuff was thing, it just like made it quite attractive to be like, oh, I wish I could do something like that. So I guess maybe someone like him back in the day, but like more so now, it's just more like I respect everyone in the sport, really enjoy it, and I just kind of like the sport itself, just quite something I quite enjoy. You get to travel quite a lot, so then that kind of like took over the reason I wanted to do it. I got to travel, race, loads of different people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right, we can jump on to the next one then, because you already brought it up. I was researching some of your competitions, and I saw you've competed in, I think, am I correct in saying early this year, competed in Germany and South Africa?
Yeah, so I competed in Johannesburg. It's capital in South Africa, which is really good. I did that in like a month ago now. Yeah, so first race of the season sort of thing, super early season opener. But yeah, that was like super cool and get to like travel and places like that. I've been there twice this year, which has been like super grateful to be able to do. And then I'm gonna head off in like a couple of weeks' time towards America. I'm gonna fly to Denver and then race in LA a couple of times. So like to be able to do that's like lovely.
I was I was gonna ask, what's been your favorite place, and how does it contrast to competing in the UK?
I think one of my favorite races probably is in the UK. So I raced last year at one of the biggest ones. Like I raced in London at the Olympic Stadium. That was like a
Yeah.
super cool competition. Loads of people watching. I think it was like 55,000 seat capacity, which was sold out. Which was like, I've never competed in a stadium that many before. So I'd say that's probably one of my fondest like memories in terms of athletics. But one of the coolest places as well. I competed in the Bahamas when I was 17. So like that
Yeah.
was like super sweet place. Like obviously the weather's lovely and like the culture's really nice. So I really enjoyed that, and obviously I got to like enjoy that at a young age where I was like appreciating it. So I guess there too probably the coolest place and also like some of the best memories.
That's good. That's good. So this is where the research comes in. So I searched up some of your winning streaks.
Winning streaks.
So 2016 and 19, am I right in saying they were very good years for you? Winning
Yeah.
competitions. So
Mm-hmm,
you
yeah.
won, did you win 6 in 2016? And was it 10 in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, you probably know more than I will. I can't remember so many, but yeah, like 2016 was a good year. I
Yeah,
think 2016 was like pretty. I think it was an unbeaten over 800. I think it was an unbeaten one in terms of all
yeah,
domestic champs. As a junior, and then 2019 was a little bit more when I developed. I started to run. I won a couple of the university competitions, a few outdoor titles and whatnot. I enjoyed that one as well. That was really some good years to be fair. Them too. I enjoyed them. Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
I, I was going to ask, was there a catalyst in those years, or maybe a different motivation or change in training that resulted in, your achievements?
I think maybe in 2016 things start to come together quite nicely. Then I was quite young. I was 16 then. Things came together quite nicely because I started to properly form training. So proper training plan I
Okay.
think helped then. So that was probably the result of like first time actually putting some good schedules together. Again in 2019, it's just that racecraft like developing as sort of like a younger athlete going in towards the senior sort of ranks into 2023s. And then obviously coming into like the more recent stuff now. Again, I think there's a product of just being able to make that step up in terms of training. Don't happen year on year, but it takes a couple of years for each thing to settle in. So I'm hoping this year will be similar success to both of them too, really.
Okay. That's very good. Right. So I'm going to do this a bit anecdotally now.
Mm-hmm.
I would like you to take us back to last summer at the
Yeah.
Olympic Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You did very well in the 800 meters.
Yeah.
Is it your personal best?
Yeah, that one was my personal best. Yeah.
And I was gonna ask, what was that like to achieve your personal best, and how do you use that race to motivate you to achieve even more?
That one was like a super pivotal moment in my career, really. Because that one's
Yeah,
like sort of like spring and like set the foundations for the next couple of years. So off that, and a really good time was 500ths of a second shy of the Olympic standard this year. Puts me in a good space to hopefully achieve that this year. It's also
yeah,
like facilitated and allowed me to train more this year and become like an athlete solely because I managed to sign my first professional contract off that sort of race. So
yeah,
from then, it allowed me to like quit my previous part-time job while I was training. So I focused more on running this year. So realistically, like, that was like such a good like sort of reward for the amount of effort and training we put in as a team with me and my coach, but also sort of like quite a nice weight off the shoulders because it leads slowly making headways in towards like senior athletics. So yeah, it was a really good moment, I think.
Would you say that race was really? Would you like to have that as the starting point to sort of achieve bigger things as the years commence?
Yeah, I'd like to think hopefully that's going to be the catalyst, which is kind of like kicks on my career. At the moment, definitely it has been in terms of like it's set me up nicely for this year to get the opportunities that I've got in the races I've got lined up has definitely come from sort of like the outcome of that race. So I'd like to think hopefully if I have a good couple of years in athletics, well, more than a few, but like a good sort of like career in athletics, I'd like to think that point is probably like quite a pivotal moment in terms of that sort of development.
Yeah. You talked about going to LA. Is it
Mm-hmm.
in a few weeks?
Yeah, we're there in
So
like a month's time or so. Yeah.
okay. So what is the training and prep like before a big race? Is it different in terms of intensity, maintained throughout the year, or do you sort of maintain the same level of intensity in training throughout the year, or is it, you have your rest breaks, you have the sort of recuperation periods, and before the big races, that's where you really turn it up, or?
Well, so in terms of training intensity and stuff, like it's pretty high at the moment. Definitely between races, trying to get that volume up and keep that like intensity high. So leading into these ones, I'm going to be based in America for a couple of weeks beforehand at an altitude camp. So I'm going to try probably churn out about 2 or 3 weeks of really good like base work and good training, sharpening up also, and then maybe then 5 days leading into, or like 4 days leading into each race, I'll probably deload quite a bit and just focus on sort of like some biomechanic stuff, so making sure the body's moving well and sharp, and then basically that'll be like how that pans out. I won't like deload for the whole month, like the month won't be easier. The training before that will be like maintained quite high, but it's more like the 3 or 4 days before will be a lot easier, allow me to sort of like be fully recovered and attack it with like some good intensity.
Yeah, I was gonna ask as well. You've competed. Am I right in saying you competed in a 1500-meter race before in your
Yeah, so I did
career?
one at the end of last year, the final race to close. I started the season on one and I ended the season on one last year as well, yeah.
I was gonna say, so obviously the lengths are completely different, but would you say the training is different as well? Or
So I probably like, you know, the similar, obviously, yeah, middle distance events, so both like categorized similarly, but yeah, obviously the distance is different, the paces are obviously are way different, but I train like I like to strike quite an even line between the ability of being able to obviously hopefully do a good 1500 and a good 800, because they kind of like complement each other, I'd say, fairly well. So if I've got the endurance and the strength to compete a good 1500, I know that when I've got go to an 8, I'll be able to carry that on that second lap, be able to work hard and stuff. But then similarly, like the 800 will provide me like and allow me to have the assets of speed and the speed endurance to hopefully in a tactical race or like a harder run race towards the end be able to finish strong in a 15. So I'd like to think they like the training's pretty similar, but it just depends at which angle you're coming from. If you're a more 800 specific, does a few 15s, you'll probably do a little bit more speed orientated stuff. But if you're a more 15-8 person, you probably do a little bit more base building and a bit more miles and a bit more endurance. So it kind of depends where you're coming from, really.
sorry, you cut out a bit for about 20-ish seconds before I just caught the end of it. Sorry, could you repeat what you were saying?
Yeah, so I just think it just it solely depends on what you're coming from. If you're coming from like the 800 meters doing some 15s, or you're coming from 1500 meters going to do some 8s. So whatever your primary is, I think they're both complementary events. You just need to kind of like, I think, strike that balance of maintaining, obviously tapping into a bit of speed work and speed endurance while also keeping some high like level of like long distance endurance and proper base work in there as well, really.
Thank you. I was going to also ask, so the Olympics are soon upon us.
Mm-hmm.
And
obviously
you are obviously a runner, 800 meters,
Mm-hmm.
very sort of known in athletics. You do a lot of running, you've competed in a lot of tournaments. So obviously you will know about your sort of colleagues and other runners in the country. Is there anyone that we should maybe look out for? Anyone that you've sort of seen train or?
I think there's like definitely a broad spectrum of athletes that are actually got good capabilities this year. I don't think I could probably say one or two of them that stand out more than the others, because I think with the 800 meters being such a competitive event, it would be kind of a bit of a toss up whether, you know, there's 3 general spots, whether the 3 are going to be the ones I say, or the other 3, there's like probably about maybe 10 athletes that are definitely capable of getting the standard and competing at such a high level. And that's what makes it good about the UK at the moment. It pushes everybody on. So there's definitely a few that are just like, well, not a few, like a bunch of them that are going to be like really good this year. And regardless whether they make the Olympics or not, they're just going to have good seasons. So I just think focusing on just trying to like, you know, be prepared to battle all of them is probably the best thing, and not super focus on like one or two, because you never know, races change, people like to run their own way, and there's that many of them that you kind of need to be almost like well-rounded, I would imagine, to just sort of like compete with everybody, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to thank you for your time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got a lot coming up in a few weeks. You mentioned before that you've had quite a few interviews today, so I thank you very much for your time. I've got a last question.
No worries at all. Yeah, go for it.
Are there any career goals you are yet to achieve, and what do you wish to attain from the sport in the long run?
So career goals, I think there's a few like ones that potentially could be obvious and stick out quite a lot. I'd love to go to an Olympic Games, compete. But I don't, like. I mean, I'd love to go to Olympic Games and be competitive. Like, I'd like to go to Olympics and a Worlds and a Commonwealth, all the big sort of like four with the Europeans, and be competitive and try medal. You know, and give myself the best possible chance, really. And in terms of just like personal like little goals and stuff as well, I'd also like to, you know, just really like, I mean, I'd be happy. I can't put a time on it because you can't just be like, oh, I wish I'd run this time. But
Yeah.
as long as I've given it like everything and exhausted every resource, I'll be happy with like my sort of achievement. So I guess I'd be happy with like, you know, exploring every avenue and being at the end of my career and be like, I couldn't have done any more than that. And then that'll be enough for me, really. And if that includes medals and golds and like big times, then yeah, that's great. And if it doesn't, I'll be still happy with the effort I think I've put in.
Right. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for your time. Honestly,
No worries, mate.
it's
All
been
the best.
great. Been great to speak to you. Thank you.
Please, thank you very much, pal. No worries. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.